Welcome to Grace on Fire. We are so blessed and honored to be with the renowned leader of Salt Lake City here, and he's Gary Acevedo. He is MSW. He is a master facilitator and founder of the Awakening Retreat and Rise Leadership Group. Let's give a warm and gracious welcome to Gary Acevedo. Wow, I think there's more people here than in Carnegie Hall. Gary, I'm so honored to have you. We are so honored to have you here.
Thank you.
We really are. You are a renowned leader in this community, and I think you go way back before anybody that I know. Truly. You started, you're kind
40
of...
plus years ago.
40 plus years ago. Wow, before I was born almost.
The group is supposed to go, he doesn't look that old.
No. Right, exactly. Gary, I'd love to ask you some questions.
Yeah, you betcha.
And I have experienced your work.
Yes.
And it is profound. And I would like, why is the Awakening Retreat such a miracle of unprecedented healing and reprogramming of doubts, fears, and barriers?
Well, when I was a very young man, I think I was still 18 when I moved into a community run by an unrecognized genius named Mel Wasserman. And it turned out he was 2 generations ahead of his time in the field of psychology and transformational work. He was inventing things that many years later would get called things like NLP or transactional analysis or inner child work. And he was, I didn't realize at the time how far ahead of his time he was. Then I came to Salt Lake and started doing my workshops, but I found out that, at the time, as a young man, I was kind of naturally gifted and talented at what I do, but I didn't understand the art and the science behind why it worked. And over the years, I came to learn that what makes the work so profound is what I call vibration and energy. I came to learn that, like I've had the privilege of training some of the best presenters in the world, and I teach all of them that the greatest tool that any presenter has at their disposal, whether it's a 5th grade teacher or a Fortune 500 CEO, is the emotional atmosphere of a room. The invisible space or energy that fills a room that makes people lean forward in their chairs, gets people touched, moved, lifted, inspired, gets people laughing at the jokes. And I found out that the space of a room is synonymous with subconscious safety. And so over the years, I've developed a manual that has 22 major categories like tone of voice and body language, and has over 100 different tools for injecting into a group this subconscious safety. In other words, the group rarely knows what I'm doing, but they feel the effects of it, and they get higher and higher and higher. And like, for example, at the Awakening, at the retreat, within the first full day, people get they go from being, what did I sign up for, to being blissed out of their minds. We have to scrape them off the ceiling. And that's because of using these subconscious techniques to inject more subconscious safety into the room.
Thank you, Gary. Wow. Well, I am very curious, and I'm sure that there's many others here present and on the YouTube that would love to know how, Gary, you accomplish igniting this subconscious safety.
The secret is I used to be an expert in my field way back 40 plus years ago. Everybody was doing attack, confrontational encounter type of groups. And so I was trained in that style, and I was very good at it. But I had a profound experience, and I learned that the great key to igniting subconscious safety is to focus on what's right with people, to focus on their strengths, their gifts, their talents, what's good about them. So in our workshops, especially in the retreat, we we shower them in these profound experiences, one after another, where they actually have these deeply moving, profound experiences of what's right with me, their strengths, gifts, and talents. And at some point, they have what we call a breakthrough, where their whole reality literally shifts. It does a 180 transformation. You know, it's really interesting because when the group is finally safe enough that I can demonstrate a breakthrough in front of the room, I'll ask for a volunteer, and somebody raises their hand. You know, a lot of people will raise their hand, and I pick somebody, and then I say, okay, what do you want to focus on? What do you want a breakthrough in? Is it your love life? Is it your money? What is it? And they tell me, and then we start doing a process. Part of this I learned from Mel Wasserman. And within 20, 25 minutes, there's not a dry eye in the house. Everyone is completely touched, moved, inspired, lifted. And everyone in that group is crystal clear that that person's life will never be the same. It's that obvious. So that's the basic idea, focusing on what is right with people, because then the game changes from, well, if I do this, if I work really hard, if I change this, maybe I'll be okay. That's what's going on subconsciously. And it changes from that to, if I'm really okay, really, really, really okay, then how good could I stand it? And so it makes dealing with fears, doubts, barriers, non-working behavior patterns really not a big deal. It's not a big deal when you know that you're really good and you're fantastic and you're magnificent. Yeah.
Wow, so eloquently spoken. And as someone that has gone through the awakening process with you, Gary, I can attest to anyone listening here present today or listening via the media that the awakening and the breakthroughs are profound shifts in people's lives that elevate us up into a new dynamic. Your work is cutting edge, and this focus you have of focusing on the good does create that. And creates those breakthroughs. And we don't know how, but it works. Yeah. It works, and it works powerfully. And we are so grateful that you are here on this planet offering this to the world so that we can all know that we are great. Yes. And that we have these programs, and it's so much deeper than that. And I'm curious where this innovative focus where this innovative focus came from. Was there an experience that you had that led you to this powerful focus on the good in people? Thank you for asking. Absolutely. You know, one day I was working with, at the time in LA, these were the world's greatest therapists who had worked under all the giants, like the man who took John Lennon through primal therapy. You know, he was my therapist. And I was working with this group of amazing people. And we were in a workshop, and this woman was having a really hard time talking about what she considered her big hang-up, which for her was being overly critical because she saw how it affected her children and, you know, all their problems. And she was just having a hard time, and all of a sudden I looked at her and I had this vision that what she thought was her big hang-up was in reality her greatest gift, strength, and talent, which was being sensitive. So I suddenly realized that as children, we have these great gifts, strengths, and talents that stick out from our body like rays of light. And as the world or our peers or our parents kind of slap those gifts down, like being too sensitive, that energy literally goes in the opposite direction as what we call a hang-up. So at that moment, I literally saw the perfection of human beings. And I knew that we're all perfect. I actually felt like I wanted to stand on a mountaintop and go, guess what, everybody? There's nothing wrong with us, you know? And so I came home and I did a little experimental workshop to see what would happen if I took all the confrontation out of the workshops and I just focused on what was right with people. And I saw miracles. I mean, I was already really good at what I do at that point. But I saw miracles I had never seen. I literally had a woman who had irreversible cancer have this revelation where she realized that she had given herself the cancer to get out of her marriage subconsciously.
And she literally reversed irreversible cancer, which of course the doctor was like, no, that's impossible. You can't do that, So anyway, I knew I was onto something good. I knew I was onto something big.
Wow, thank you. And I am curious. I'm kind of wanting to glean some of your secrets out so that we can get a taste of some of what you have to offer, because I know you helped me with a hang up that I had that was powerful and that made a huge breakthrough in my life.
Yeah.
And that was that I was bad.
Right.
And when I learned that from you,
Right.
and that actually means that I'm really good.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, all my life I thought I'm bad. And that was from a child experience when I was 3 years old.
Right.
That I was so innocently decided and made a decision I was bad.
Right.
And to find out, to reverse that alone transformed my life.
Absolutely.
That alone transformed. So please give us some examples of hang-ups that some other people might have as well that are actually strengths, because my hang up of being bad actually showed me that I had a strength of being good, and I didn't know that is powerfully.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because what we found out early on was that whatever a person's doubts or fears are, their biggest doubts and fears, is exactly the opposite of who they really are, the truth of who they are. So, for example, people who have the doubt of being bad, and I'm thinking of a couple people in my mind, are the most Christ-like human beings on the planet. See, people who believe they're unlovable are the most lovable people on the planet. People who feel like they might be stupid are the most brilliant people. I even, sometimes in the workshops, I'll even have people stand up who have those doubts and fears. I'll say, what do you notice? And they'll go, well, they're the most brilliant people in the room. It's like the negative of a photograph. When you come to Earth, if you have this mission that has to do with being Christ-like, then the doubt will be, well, maybe I'm bad. See? That's how it goes. Now, I'll give you a couple of other examples. I just want to check my notes here for a moment. What if criticalness is actually a strength called, I care so much, I want you to be perfect? What if shyness is actually being sensitive, and in reality they have more clarity and insight than anyone in the room? What if depression is actually the suppression of a new emerging need, and it wants to throw out the old meanings and rise to new meanings? And in reality, the way to do that is to basically stop suppressing so many feelings. People who wrestle with depression tend to withhold resentments. So they give in, they go along with, they put up with it, they swallow it, and you can only do that so many times before you have so many feelings your body literally has to shut down. That's called depression. Okay? So what if the strength within being overweight, for example, is actually the great gift of wanting? Like, I want everything, and I want it for everybody, and I want it now, and but there's a gap between their wantingness and their fulfillment, and that's the weight. Once people start to close that gap, getting their body image the way they want it becomes fairly effortless. In one class I had a third of the group, without even trying, this wasn't even their goal, but they lost between 40 and 90 pounds by just being in that program. What if anxiety is actually caused by the holding back and building up of one's responses, and anxiety actually reveals the power to accomplish? So those are a few examples.
I like that. Thank you. See, even just that short bit has just revealed and awakened. I suffered with anxiety as a teenager.
Right.
And I think that now that you say that, it clicks together. And I experienced a little anxiety waking up this morning, knowing I had this Grace on Fire today.
Right.
I had the desire to accomplish something wonderful for people.
Right.
And so that reframing is so powerful, just like for me with going through your program. So much was reframed.
Good.
It's just a powerful class, and we're just not even the tip of the iceberg here. But I want to ask you, Gary, what is the result of this innovative focus? What are some of your success stories, other than me and many other people, half my friends?
You know, it's interesting because there are so many good examples. I have people who've been, a lot of people come through my workshops are kind of seekers, and they've done everything out there. And I love it when they say, wow, there is nothing like this. This is the pinnacle of healing and empowerment. And some examples would be like, I have lots of parents who were terrified at the things their teenagers were getting into. And now those same teenagers, after they've been through stuff like the awakening, are successful and happy people doing amazing things out there in life. And we have innumerable stories of saved marriages as examples. Because in our culture, people teach us math and English, but they don't teach you how to communicate, how to deal with those tough conversations when you're in a relationship. And it's so sad because very few people actually fall in love. Most people get married for the wrong reason. But even those who fall in love, the average time it takes them for the sex to go out the window and to just become roommates is about 3 years, because nobody gives us those kind of skills. We have many, many people who were in scarcity when they came to the awakening, and now they have literally transformed their financial life. Some people are kind of talented at making money, and when those people come to me, I have network marketers who went from a couple $100,000 a year to 70, 80,000 a month. Millionaires who went from $1 million a year to 7, 8 million a year in less than a year. And my favorite examples are what I call game changers, people who actually want to change the world, who want to make a difference in people's lives. And so like Ron McMillan and Joseph Grenny are my favorite success stories because out of the retreat that they did, the awakening, they were so inspired by the last day, which is about the art and science of higher purpose. We call it the greatest key to manifest your vision. And they actually went out there, and through something called microloans, they are now responsible for bringing 12 million people out of poverty. I mean, when I was on television with one of them, when they shared this with me, and it was all I could do not to burst into tears, thinking I had anything to do with that miracle. It was beautiful. Burt Bonnell invented a machine that saves premature babies' lives, and because of problems with a regulatory agency, he could actually lose his business. And his wife used a tool from the relationships course called How to Melt Your Favorite Jerk on him one day, and she melted him, and he walked out and he goes, "Hey, what did you do to me?" And she goes, "Well, I learned it in the relationships course, So he calls me up, he goes, "Hey, I got to work with you," right? So we got together for a few hours, and I taught him how to melt your favorite jerk, It's disarming verbal attackers, And he got okay with it. So then he walks into 5 regulatory agency people, loaded for bear. And within an hour, he said they were brainstorming with him on how he could save his business. So today, hundreds of babies a year, their lives are being saved by that machine that almost never made it to market. And the karma of this is that my brother's child, her life was saved by that machine. Just gets me choked up when I talk about it. And my earliest success was Mark Hughes, who, when I was young as a coach, after CEDU, I coached him into starting a company called Herbalife, which at one point was the fastest growing company in history. So that was a great start for me to get going,
Absolutely. And to have your life and to know that you have contributed to these success stories and to these people and to these babies and to the world at large. You are here as a powerful leader on the planet with a powerful service for humanity, making such a huge difference that we are so blessed to have you on this planet, to have you offering your Awakening, the Rise leadership programs. I've gone to many of your classes, including the Awakening, and I just am so honored to interview you and highlight you, Gary, and
Thank
let
you.
the world know about what you're up to in your service to humanity,
Yeah,
in
thank you.
saving lives, saving relationships, saving people, and bringing this consciousness of this planet up to a higher place. You're a big player in this, and it's got to feel good, and you've got to sleep well at night.
Yeah, when I'm at the Awakening, there are times when I get so blissed and grateful for what I get to do that I achieve what some people call nirvana or satori, where I'm so blissed out that it's like people could bring a crisis to me and I'd be like, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Appreciate this.
Gary Acevedo, thank you so much.
Yay. The crowd goes wild at Carnegie Hall.